right. Good morning. Hey, thanks. Well, my name's Mike, and it's so good to be with you today. I'm excited about this series that we're in called Tandem, and we're talking about families and relationships and how to connect better and create more togetherness in our relationships. And it's hard. It's difficult. And so we want to just help you and empower you and teach you some tools and strategies and see what God's word says about how we can do relationships and families better. So today I want to talk about a certain aspect of relationships, and that is our marriages and our dating life and even friendships, about how we interact with each other. And I once heard it said that marriage is like a walk in the park. Jurassic Park. Yes. You know, the systems are being overloaded, the rides are breaking down, there's velociraptors running through our house. I mean, those are our kids, by the way. And it can be crazy and messy. And my wife and I actually celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary last Sunday. Yeah, it's exciting. She's amazing. Her name's Jennifer, and we dated for 5 years. Been married now for 23 years, total of 28 years together. And I have a little confession. Our biggest fight ever as a couple, and it was a horrible nuclear sort of fight, happened, this is embarrassing, at a marriage retreat. Yes, true story. Jen signed us up for this Christian marriage retreat up in the mountains. It was this weekend experience. They called it a romance weekend. And we went up there, and I had a bad attitude about the whole thing because I just, was a jerk back then. And I got up there, and they sat you at tables with other couples, and I had to make small talk and talk about, their Bob and Sandy's Himalayan cats, and I was frustrated by that. I'm like, when I was singing romance, I was thinking Jennifer and I at a candlelit table with jazz music playing. That's what I was thinking about, and here I am talking about cats and things I don't care about. And then we got into the session where they were supposed to teach us how to have better marriages and how to connect better as couples, and I'm sitting there for 2 hours, way too long for this impatient guy. 2 hours of teaching on marriage. It's like, hey, could I just get the summary of that? Just the cliff notes of that 2-hour presentation. But one of the things that they said in this presentation where they just totally lost me was they talked about how prayer was sexy. I don't think so. I was out at that moment, and Jennifer could tell I was frustrated, with the small talk at dinner, and now this 2-hour presentation and sexy prayer and this whole thing. So we get to our room, and I walk into the room. She's there, and we're there together. I say to her, "I want to go home now, right now. I don't like this marriage thing. We're gonna go home." And she's like, "We can't go home. We paid for this, and we need to work on our marriage," because we were kind of flatline and struggling at the time, and it was kind of not a great season, obviously. And I said, "No, I want to go home." And she goes, "Well, don't you care about me and our marriage, and don't you care about us?" And it's like, "Yeah, I care about us, but not enough to stay here. I want to go home." And then she started to cry. And not just cry, but snot nose crying. And so, snot's flowing out her nose, tears running down her face, and we start yelling at each other and screaming at each other, and we use words that you can't use in church, and it was bad. And it got to the point where she storms out of the room, I kicked the suitcase, and we've never been to another marriage retreat since. Right? So here's the problem. I think this happens a lot. By the way, we salvaged the weekend that weekend by just making our own marriage retreat and just spending time together. Because that's kind of what we really needed in that moment. I didn't need 2-hour lectures. I didn't need small talk. I needed us to be close. I needed us to have a connection and just start doing some fun things together. I think sometimes in our relationships, we're talking up here like with with ideas and strategies that it feels more like division and multiplication. And maybe that's what this marriage retreat was. It was division and multiplication. But I'm down here. I'm still trying to learn to do the addition and subtraction. And so this morning, I want us to be more about the addition and subtraction, some of the most basic things that we can do in our relationships that will help us thrive and grow and get close. Because it's hard. And here's what I've discovered. I've been working with couples for 15 years. My wife and I wrote a book called 5 Dates. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on, about just helping couples connect and create intimacy and connection. But it's down here. It's addition and subtraction. It's not multiplication. It's addition and subtraction. If we do these things well, we'll have a successful relationship. And so what I found is that couples tend to not be very intentional about their marriages, about their relationships, about their friendships. They just sort of assume these things drift into health. But that's not true at all. We have to actually work on it. I say this, all the time, that you can't have a wholehearted relationship with a half-hearted approach. And so if we want what Jesus wants for us, if we want him to have, express what he desires for our marriages and for our dating life and for our friendships, we have to invite him into that center, but we also have to be intentional about doing the work. We have to be intentional about engaging people. We have to be intentional about our conversations and the language and the words that we use. I love what Jesus said in John. He said this, let me give you a new command. Love one another the way that I have loved you. And so that's really kind of the starting point, the foundational point for all of this is we need to start loving each other the way Jesus loves us. And going back to the basics, that's the addition, subtraction, back to the basics of love and saying, Jesus, how can I love my spouse better? How can I love my friends better? How can I love my boyfriend or girlfriend better? How can I love this person better? I think so often we are unintentional about our relationships and our priorities and values and criteria get a little screwed up. And let me use this tomato as an example. So a couple months ago, I bought a tomato. By the way, not this tomato, but I bought a tomato and I brought it home. And I like tomatoes. I like eating tomatoes. And so I cut it open and I started eating it. And this is a supermarket tomato. And I started eating it and it tasted like plastic and cardboard. Like it was flavorless. It was not good. I'm like, what's going on here? So I did a little research about supermarket tomatoes and how they actually select the tomatoes for their stores. And they have 4 clear criteria that they use when selecting a supermarket tomato. Criteria number 1, size. They like them big. They like them, the larger the better. Number 2, color. They like them red. The bright red color is really important in terms of selecting that tomato. They say size, color, shape. They want them looking like this. Perfect, round. And then fourth criteria is they want them to be insect resistant and insect repellent. So those are the 4 criteria that it takes to get a good supermarket tomato. But you know what one of the criteria that doesn't exist for a supermarket tomato? Taste. How is that possible? How could they leave taste off the criteria? How is taste not a priority in terms of selecting the tomato? And I think we do that a lot with our relationships. We have sort of these other standards we're making choices or making priorities in our life and we forgot about what we're really going after. We're going after a wholehearted, loving, thriving, intimate relationship, and yet we have our criteria organized like the supermarket tomatoes. And let me talk about some of the danger signs that may show that we are being unintentional about our relationships, that we have more of the tomato approach than the godly approach. And here's basically some signs that you might be at risk in your relationship. Number 1 is you have no clear goals as a couple. This happens a lot. We're just sort of going along, hoping things will get better, or just sort of existing in the relationship, and we don't have a clear goal. You need to have a clear goal. You need to have something that you're going after. One of the things that we write about, Jennifer and I write about in our book, 5 Dates, is that one of the dates is devoted to dreams and understanding each other's dreams and supporting each other's dreams, but also creating a dream as a couple. Like something that you're working on, going after, something that you see in your future, having a vision for your relationship that's incredibly important. Number 2, you often give each other the leftovers. That happens a lot, right? Life is busy, schedules are full, kids, soccer practice, long days at work, and we get home and we're with our spouse or with the person that we love the most, and what do? We bring the leftovers. We need to stop doing that. We need to figure out how, because that's the tomato strategy. We forgot that it's about taste, and this relationship's important, and keeping our eye on that ball of like, I can't bring the leftovers and expect this to go well. It's not gonna happen. Number 3, unhealthy over-focus on the kids. Now, listen, don't start booing me on this one, because our kids are important, right? We love our kids. They're amazing sometimes. We need to invest in our kids. God has given our kids to nurture and help mature and grow. But if I see this happen way too often. In fact, several relationships in my friendship group over the past year have suffered from this, that they had spent past 18 years focusing on the kids, over-focusing on their needs, on their wants, their activities, their soccer practice, their volleyball, they're getting into college. They spent all their energy on the kids, and they spent 0 energy on their marriage, and now the kids are gone, and they're like 2 strangers in the house. And some of you know what I'm talking about. It's like we forgot to work on the relationship because we were so busy working on the kids. And so don't make that mistake. And then 4th, finally, is you lack consistent quality time together. I was just thinking, and listen, this isn't a place of judgment. It's just like, when was the last time you had some really intentional time together? A date night, a sit down on the couch where you just were able to share with each other. It's hard. And if you've seen these signs in your relationship, this is hopefully a little pinprick to say, hey, let me step back. Let's step back as a couple. Let's look at the relationship and see some of the changes that we can make. And really what I want to unpack this morning with you is how to do that. And the first sort of big idea I want to talk about is this whole concept that I call relational nowness. Relational nowness. And relational nowness is about us being in the present moment with the person that we love. That we fully occupy this moment. We fully occupy the time together. And relational nowness consists of 3 things. I'm going to unpack each one of these sections. But the first one, relational nowness says, I see you. The second one is relational nowness says, I hear you. And then the third part of relational nowness is what you're telling me is important. So let's talk about this first one. I see you. I see you. So we live in a society that doesn't see people, that doesn't look at people in the eyes. We are very distracted in terms of our culture for lots of different reasons. Technology, the pace of life. And so for us to see people, to look at our partner in the eyes and to look them in the eyes and to see them, not just maybe who they are physically, but to see their concerns, to see their dreams, to see the things that they're passionate about, to see their worries, like to really look at people. They did an interesting study where they figured out that if you look and stare into the eyes of another person for 4 minutes, just 4 minutes, no words, no body movement, just like literally just staring at each other for 4 minutes. Like, how uncomfortable is that, right? But you know what they found is that when you stare at each other, into each other's eyes for 4 minutes, it creates this incredible level of intimacy, of connection, of togetherness. In fact, it's so powerful that they can take two strangers off the street and have them sit in chairs and look at each other for 4 minutes. And after that 4 minutes, they feel like they know each other. In fact, sometimes they want to go out on a date afterwards, right? And maybe they want to get married because it's so powerful. But just looking each other in the eyes and saying, I see you, not even saying anything, I just see you, is a starting point for relational nowness. And I think about Jesus and his interactions with the people that he loved and that he cared about. He was always fully there, wasn't he? There wasn't sort of like Jesus being in the moment with the woman at the well and sort of like, I'm 50% here, but 50% thinking about what I got to do tomorrow. Or he's not checking his Instagram feed, updating his Twitter. Like, he is there. He says, I see you. And we have a God that sees us. I love this story in Genesis. And it talks about this woman named Hagar. And she's an Egyptian slave girl. And she is like, in terms of society, a nothing. No status, no money. She is a slave, and she's working for this family. And she's forced to be a surrogate mother for this couple. And so the husband impregnates her, and now she's pregnant. And there's conflict and strife and tension in that. And so she runs away. She can't take it anymore, and she runs away, and God meets her in the desert, in the wilderness, and he has this conversation with her, and he speaks to her, he understands, he tells her story, he gives her wisdom on what she should be doing, and this is what Hagar says about God in Genesis 16:13. Hagar says this, she gave this name to the Lord, Hagar gave this name to the Lord, who spoke to her, he says, you are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. In fact, this is the only time in the Bible that this name is given to God, the God who sees me. In Hebrew, it's El Roi. And this is such a powerful picture of when God looks at you, he knows you, he sees you, he cares about you. He is passionately there. He's occupying that moment. He wants relational nowness. He knows every aspect of your story. He is the God that sees you. And so if Jesus conducted his life the way he did in relationships of seeing people, and God is like the creator of the universe, all-powerful God, he sees you. Shouldn't that be sort of a model for us that when we're with our spouses or girlfriends or boyfriends or with our friends or with our coworkers or with people who are hurting, that we see them, that we communicate to them that they are known. Second thing about relational nowness. So first, it's I see you. Secondly, so I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I listen. And for a lot of us, in terms of communication, as we think about our conversations, listening is really, unfortunately, just us waiting to respond or reply versus trying to actually understand, right? We get in this place where conversations, we're not really hearing what that person is telling us. And if we're not fully present in the moment, if we're not showing up in our relationship, we're gonna miss some important details. Dr. John Gottman, who has studied couples for thousands and thousands of couples for decades now, he has watched couples interact, he's watched couples talk, and he's discovered a few insights that are basically gospel truth about a relationship. And one of the things that he talks about is what he calls bids for attention, bids for attention. And this is what a bid for attention would look like this. Just say, I come into the house and I tell Jennifer, hey, Jennifer, I saw this really cool hummingbird out by our fountain. Come look at it, because I'm into birds and I'm into hummingbirds and I love fountains. And so I'm just asking her, come, it's a bid for attention. Come look at this little hummingbird with me because I care about this. And for her to respond to that bid for attention would mean her getting up and coming and looking at that bird, even if she's not into birds, even if she could care less about what's happening outside. Maybe she's busy, but she responds to that bid for attention. And Dr. John Gottman has found that that the happiest couples, the happiest relationships are the ones that respond to bids for attention, even when they're small and insignificant. In fact, couples who can do that 9 out of 10 times are the most successful, most happy couples. But he also found that couples who respond to bids for attention with frustration or anger or simply ignore their partner's bids for attention, he found that those couples will be divorced within 6 years. And he has the proof and the research and the science to say that is true. So part of us hearing is about us getting more in tune with those bids for attention from the people that are communicating those bids to us. Also, realize that for us, it's hard to hear sometimes because we do what I call phubbing. I want everybody to say the word phubbing. This is a new word I want to teach you. And that was not planned, by the way. But this is about our phones, okay? And phubbing means it's a combination of phone plus snubbing equals phubbing. And so let me tell you how this works. And all of you are going to go like, oh no, I think I've been phubbing Mike all morning. Yes, it's okay. But phubbing is when we are looking down at our phones versus looking or listening to the person that's talking to us. It happens all the time. In fact, I've heard that we check our phones at a minimum of 150 times a day, okay? So you have 150 opportunities to phub somebody, okay? And so phubbing is basically like, let's say you're having a conversation in the kitchen and your spouse, you're sharing with your spouse about your day and they look down at their phone because they just got a Facebook notification. You just phub that person, right? Or maybe you're at lunch or dinner and you're having a kind of a conversation with the family or a group and you get on your phone, you're phubbing those people. And so phubbing is really just this kind of basic practice that we really have to be aware of and try to minimize doing that if we actually want to have togetherness and connection. And so, maybe for you, it's like, hey, no cell phones at the table. Or maybe when you go on a date, it's like, hey, let's leave our phones in the car because it's so tempting to look down instead of, I see you, I hear you, I'm going to be in this moment with you, okay? And so don't phub the person that you love. In fact, this may hurt a little bit, but whenever we're with a loved one, we're with a friend, or with anybody, when we are looking down at our phones in that conversation, basically what we're communicating to them is that what's happening out there is more important than what's happening right here. And that's not what I want to communicate to my wife. That's not what I want to communicate to my friends. That's not what I want to communicate to the people that I care about. And so hear them, respond to their bids for attention, see them. And then finally, this idea, this third component of relational nowness, of occupying that moment, is saying this: what you're telling me is important. What you're communicating to me matters. Now, you may not agree with what they're saying. You may have a different point of view, but that we give our spouses and the people that we love, or our friends, or even strangers, like we give value and credence to their beliefs and their feelings and their emotions. And say, like, this is clearly important to you. And I tell couples all the time that the 3 most important words in a relationship are not the words, I love you, even though those are important words. But the 3 most important words in a relationship are, help me understand. Help me understand. And that's our posture, is like whatever our spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or our coworker is saying to us, it should not be about creating this confrontation or diminishing their perspective. It's saying, help me understand why you believe this. That's such a healthier, more proactive, God-honoring way to do relationships with each other. Here's what the Bible says, and I love this verse in Ephesians 4. It says this. It says, watch the way you talk. Say only what helps. Each word is a gift. And that's what I want my words to be. I want my words to be gifts to the people that I care about. It's said sometimes, like, my words tend to be hand grenades instead of gifts. And so thinking about how we communicate, thinking about how we talk. And one of the things I want to show you right now is I want to demonstrate an area that often trips us up in terms of communication and sort of a divisive thing that happens in couples, and they don't even realize why it's happening. And that is the difference between men and women talk styles. Men talk a certain way, women talk a certain way. Men talk and use words for respect and to win, and words are going to either move them up or going to move them down. While women, on the other hand, they use words and communicate for community and connection, and sort of this heart-to-heart connection. And their words are either going to move them closer or farther. So we have these two different talk styles. And instead of me sort of telling you about these talk styles, I thought we could demonstrate it this morning. So I'm going to bring a couple on up. Where are you guys at? And we're going to demonstrate this for you. Where are you guys? There they are, right here in front. Come on up. So it's Cheryl and Jason. All right, so Jason, I'm gonna give you the mic. Jason, why don't you sit right here on this corner of the couch? And Cheryl, why don't you sit right next to him? First of all, you guys married?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
12 years in 21 days.
Not that anybody's counting, right? Congratulations, that's awesome. And just congratulations knowing that it's 21 days too. So, all right, so here's what we're gonna demonstrate a women's talk style. And this is generally how women like to communicate, why they use words, and it's what I call the sofa style of communication. And so let's just imagine Cheryl is sharing with you her day, and maybe it's been a tough day, Cheryl. No, you keep the mic. And it's been hard, and maybe you have kids? Yeah. Okay, maybe the kids have been kind of really under her skin, and she's sharing this with you and talking to you, pouring out her heart to you. And then I want you to say, Jason, I want you to say, I don't know what the big deal is. Or do you want me to just go talk to those kids for you? Go and say that. No, you say that to her.
I don't know what the big deal is. You know, I've been at work all day, and you've just been watching the kids.
Okay.
Have you heard that before?
Hey, wow. Jason, we clearly have some work to do here, but it's okay. So when Jason says that to Cheryl, is Cheryl gonna move close or away? What do you think? Away. You're gonna, I'm gonna move you over on the couch, right? That's right. Words drove her away. The words did not move her close. Now let's try something else. Now, Jason, this is the way you would have done it, knowing you. This was a real scenario, and I didn't tell you what to say. I want you to say to Cheryl, I'm so sorry you're having a hard day.
I'm so sorry you're having a bad day.
And Cheryl, you're gonna move closer back to him, because now instead of him trying to fix it or being insensitive to it, those words brought her close. In fact, sometimes, guys, the most important thing we can do in the sofa style and entering into our spouse's talk style is not to say anything at all. Like just said, like put your arm around her as she's sharing, and like just being there for her, right? But guys, don't fix it, feel it. That's how you enter into Cheryl's talk style, okay? Now, here's another tip, and every guy right here, eyeballs to eyeballs. I know Travis, Jason, you already know this. Never, ever, ever, when you're on this sofa, never, ever say the words, calm down, okay? Like, seriously, you know what I'm saying? Get some applause there. And men, if you missed my point on that, I have now created a slide for you, okay? So never, ever, ever, and I mean never, ever say the words calm down. Like those two words, she's moving away. In fact, she's moving off the sofa into a whole nother universe. So watching the words, and the way that this is gonna work best is that you are considering her preferred talk style, and that you are using words and communication that will help bring her close, not farther away. So now let's talk about men's talk styles. So let's get off the couch, and we're gonna do what we call, is this opening? There we go. What I call the step stool style. And men, again, communicate and use words to win and compete, right? So I want you take the mic. Jason, right up here on our little step stool. And Cheryl, I'm going to give you the microphone. So go ahead and stand up there. It will hold you, I promise. Okay. He's elevated. He's winning. Feels good about himself. See, you're laughing because you know this is true, right? This is where guys like to be. We want respect. We want to be up on our step stool. Words need to put us up on our step stool. So let's just imagine this scenario. Come on over here, Cheryl. Let's imagine Jason has worked really hard painting a room today, and you had picked out the color, and you had asked him to do this. And is there something going on here? Okay, all right. So he's worked really hard, spent several hours of his Saturday morning painting this room, and you come in and you say, hey, Jason, I think you missed the spot over here in the corner. So go ahead and tell him that.
It looks great, but you missed a spot over there.
Here's the brush.
Okay, so what's got, wow. I guess that is one response. You could, yes. So here's what's going to happen. Those words that Cheryl just said are going to knock Jason off his step stool, right? Those words brought him down. They didn't move him up. They brought him down. Versus, let's say this. Same scenario. You walk into the room and you go, and maybe there is a spot that he missed. Maybe that's true. But you say, oh my gosh, this room looks so amazing. Jason, you should go into the painting business. Go ahead and say that to him.
Oh my gosh, this room looks so amazing. You should go into the painting business.
What's going to happen? Those words just move Jason back. Well, no, Jason. Jason, you can do this later, okay? I need you. You crack me up. He moved back up on a step stool. Those words lifted him. They raised him. This is why when our wives ask us if we're lost when we're driving the car, why we're so sensitive about that, because those words mean we're losing and we're not winning, and it knocks us off our step stool. So think about how you can enter into your partner's talk style and use the right words, and think about women want to move close, or words move farther, or men, their words either are going to move them up or move them down. And when you think about your partner's talk style, that's when you make each word a gift. Let's give these two a round of applause. Thanks, guys. Awesome. Congrats, by the way. Thank you. Woohoo. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm done, and I want to. We care as a church about your relationships. Dating, engaged, married for 3 years, married for 20 years. In friendships, we care about if you're not in a relationship right now. But one of the things we're going to give you an opportunity this morning is to take what we're calling the 5 Dates Challenge. And here's what we want to do, is to have 150 couples from this church say, I will commit to going on 5 dates with my loved one, the person that I care about the most, that I am going to get intentional. I'm going to take a small step and just say, you know what? I am going to start putting a strategy together for us getting closer. And so what we're going to do this morning is we have out in the parking lot area, out in the front of the church, there's a little tent, and we have these books that my wife Jennifer and I put together, little easy workbooks. There's a workbook for her and a workbook for him, and they come as a bundle, and they're really super simple. It's very creative. It's a very positive experience, and the whole premise of these books is basically don't work on your problems, work on your togetherness, the addition and subtraction. That's where we're going to start on this. And it just means going out on 5 dates and having 5 strategic conversations. And the books are really simple, like literally less than a 10-minute investment each week to do the exercises and the reading, and then you go out on your date. And by the way, the guy's book, basically it's just pictures. So it's really easy, right? It's really easy for you guys. I mean, I thought about this whole experience, like, would I do this? And I basically designed this whole thing saying, I would love to do this because this is setting me up to win and maybe have sex later in the evening, you know. So, did I just say that? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to say that. But seriously, these books are going to be available out there. Love for you to sign up. There's a little commitment card that says, I am going to go out on 5 dates. I'm in. I'm going to be more intentional. These are $25 for the bundle. We take credit cards and checks and Bitcoin and cash, whatever you want to pay with. And what you do is you sign up. The books will be here next week. You'll get your bundle. You get the his and her copies, and you'll be off to the races in terms of investing in your relationship. So let me close us in prayer. Can you just have everyone stand? So as usual, if you have anything that's on your heart, it's been a difficult week for you, or you need prayer, there's going to be some folks up here in the front after the service is over that would love to pray with you. And I'd love to meet you. I'm actually going to be out at the front. Love to say hi. Also, and can I just pray a blessing over you for this week? God, thank you for these amazing people in this room. And God, I pray that we will discover new and fresh ways to be a good friend, be a good spouse, be a good parent. Whatever relationship we are in right now, God, I pray that we just adopt your values and your strategies. And God, knowing that it is messy, it is hard, it is complicated, but God, with you, we can thrive and build the sort of relationships that you desire for us. We love you so much, and we thank you for this time. And it's in your son's name that we pray. And all of God's people said, amen. God bless you guys. See you next week.